The afternoon sun filtered through the terminal windows at LaGuardia, casting long shadows across the waiting area. Robert Chen stood at gate 17, his hand resting gently on his daughter's shoulder. Maya was 9 years old, with her mother's dark eyes and his own quiet determination. "Dad, do you think they'll have pretzels on the plane?" Maya asked, her backpack covered in patches from every state they'd visited together. Robert smiled down at her. "We'll see, sweetheart. We'll see." He was 42 years old, though some days he felt much older. 3 years had passed since Sarah died. 3 years of learning to braid hair and pack school lunches, of attending parent-teacher conferences alone, and staying up late helping with homework. His flannel shirt was worn at the elbows, and his jeans had seen better days, but they were clean. That mattered to him. The gate agent called for final boarding. Robert checked their tickets once more, a habit he couldn't break. They were heading to Cleveland for his mother's 70th birthday. She hadn't seen Maya since Christmas, and he knew his daughter needed that connection, that sense of family that stretched beyond just the two of them. As they made their way down the jetway, Robert noticed the man behind them. Tall, probably in his early 60s, with silver hair swept back from a weathered face. He wore an expensive navy blazer, the kind Robert used to wear when he worked in finance, back before everything changed. The man carried himself with that particular kind of confidence that comes from years of success. But there was something in his eyes, something watchful. The plane was nearly full. Robert found their seats near the back, row 32. He helped Maya stow her backpack in the overhead bin and settled her by the window. She pressed her nose against the glass immediately, watching the ground crew load the last of the luggage. "Remember what we talked about," Robert said softly. "Keep your seatbelt fastened. And if you need anything, I ask you first," Maya finished. "I know, Dad." He took the middle seat beside her, leaving the aisle seat empty. A moment later, the silver-haired man appeared, checking his boarding pass with a slight frown. "32C," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "That's me." "Of course," Robert said, standing to let him pass. "Would you prefer the middle? I can take the aisle." The man paused, looking at Robert properly for the first time. His expression shifted, something flickering behind his eyes. Recognition? Confusion? Robert couldn't quite place it. No, the aisle is fine," the man said, his voice careful, measured. He sat down slowly, his gaze never quite leaving Robert's face. Robert felt a small flutter of discomfort. Had they met before? He didn't think so, but his memory wasn't what it used to be. Too many sleepless nights, too many years of carrying everything alone. The plane pushed back from the gate. Maya chattered quietly about Grandma's house, about the tire swing in the backyard and the cookies they'd make together. Robert listened, adding small comments, but he could feel the man beside him still watching. Finally, as they reached cruising altitude, the man spoke. "Forgive me," he said. "I don't mean to stare. It's just, you remind me of someone." Robert turned, offering a polite smile. "It happens. I've got one of those faces, I guess." "Perhaps." The man extended his hand. "William Morrison." Robert shook it. The name meant nothing to him. "Robert Chen, and this is my daughter, Maya." Maya looked up from her window and waved shyly before returning to the clouds outside. William Morrison. The name hung in the air between them. Robert noticed the man's watch now, elegant and understated, probably worth more than Robert's car. His shoes were Italian leather, perfectly maintained. This wasn't a man who usually flew in economy. Unusual to see someone... William paused, choosing his words. "In business class seats back here." "Wasn't planning to be here," William said with a slight smile. "Gave my original seat to a young mother with an infant." She looked exhausted, and first class seemed like a place where she could breathe a little easier. Robert felt his opinion of the stranger shift. "That was kind of you. Just seemed like the right thing to do." William settled back in his seat, but his eyes remained thoughtful. "You're heading to Cleveland?" "My mother's birthday, family gathering." Robert glanced at Maya, who was now drawing in a small notebook. "We don't get to see her as often as we'd like." "Family is important," William said, something weighted in his tone. "Especially as we get older. We realize what we've missed." The flight attendant came by with drinks. Robert ordered apple juice for Maya and water for himself. William requested coffee, black. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Robert pulled out a worn paperback, something he'd been trying to finish for months. Maya drew her pictures, but William seemed lost in thought, his coffee cooling in his hands. May I ask you something, William said suddenly. It's rather personal, and you're welcome to tell me it's none of my business. Robert closed his book. Sure. You're raising her alone, aren't you? Your daughter. Robert's jaw tightened slightly, an old protective instinct. I am. Her mother passed away 3 years ago. I'm sorry, William said, and the sympathy in his voice sounded genuine. That must be incredibly difficult. We manage. Robert's voice was quiet but firm. We have each other. William nodded slowly. My son was raised by a single parent too, his mother. I was absent. Too focused on building my company, making my fortune. I thought providing financially was enough. He paused. I was wrong. Robert didn't know what to say to that, so he waited. I see you with her, William continued, gesturing subtly toward Maya. The way you checked her seatbelt 3 times. How you made sure she had the window seat. The patience when she asks questions. That's what I never gave my son. It's never too late, Robert offered. William's smile was sad. Sometimes it is. He's 40 now. We're cordial, but we're not close. I missed my chance to be his father when it mattered. The words settled between them. Robert thought about his own father, gone now for 10 years, who had taught him how to change a tire and how to treat people with dignity. Simple lessons that had shaped everything. My dad used to say that every day is a chance to do better than yesterday, Robert said. I didn't always believe him, especially after Sarah died, but Maya needed me to believe it. William looked at him with something like wonder. You sound like a good father. I try. That's all any of us can do. Maya tugged on Robert's sleeve. Dad, can I have a snack? Robert reached into his bag and pulled out a small container of crackers and cheese he'd packed that morning. Here you go, kiddo. William watched this simple exchange with an intensity that Robert found curious. When Maya was settled again, William spoke more quietly. There was a man, he said, 23 years ago. I was in Boston, building my second company. I was arrogant, sure of myself. I cut corners, made decisions that hurt people. He stared at his hands. One of my suppliers, a small family business, went under because I broke a contract. The owner, he came to my office. Asian-American man, about your age now. He didn't yell or threaten. He just asked me to reconsider, told me about his family, his kids. Robert felt something cold settle in his stomach. I had security escort him out, William continued. I told myself it was just business, but I never forgot his face, the dignity in it, even when I was taking everything from him. The silence stretched long. Maya hummed softly to herself, oblivious. Why are you telling me this? Robert asked. William turned to face him fully. Because you look exactly like him. Same eyes, same quiet strength. And I've spent 23 years trying to be a better person than I was that day. Robert absorbed this. That man, what was his name? David Chen. Robert's breath caught. That was my uncle, my father's brother. William's face went pale. My God. He died 15 years ago, Robert said, his voice steady despite the tumult inside. Heart attack. The stress of losing his business, starting over, it took years off his life. I'm so sorry, William whispered. I'm so terribly sorry. They sat with that truth between them. The plane hummed around them, carrying them forward through the sky. Maya asked for more juice, and Robert poured it with steady hands, his mind racing. Did you know? William asked. When you saw my name, did you know who I was? No, Robert said honestly. I was young when it happened. I knew Uncle David's business failed, knew some corporate executive had broken a promise. But I never knew the details, never knew the name. William looked stricken. If I had known I was sitting next to family, his nephew, what would you have done? Robert asked. Changed seats? Avoided this conversation? I don't know, William admitted. Robert looked at his daughter, content in her little world of drawings and clouds. He thought about Sarah, about the lessons she'd taught him in their too brief time together, about forgiveness and moving forward. My Uncle David, Robert said slowly, was a kind man, kinder than he should have been. When he started over, he worked as a cashier at a grocery store. I remember visiting him there when I was 16. He smiled at every customer, asked about their day. Someone recognized him once, someone who'd known him when he owned his business. They made some comment about how far he'd fallen. What did he say? William asked. He said, I'm right where I need to be.